Right now is former White House Chief of Staff under President Clinton, Mack McLarty, and Fox News contributor Mary Katharine Ham. Good to see you both. Thanks so much for joining us. Mack, let me get your take on the weekend's activities. First, it was pretty close in Nevada. What's your take on Hillary versus Bernie?
I think this was the alliteration weekend in terms of a shakeout Saturday in terms of the Republican side. In terms of the Democratic side, Maria, I think it was solidifying. I think Secretary Clinton won. It was a solid win. It was not by as large a margin as some had hoped it might be, but it was solid. And I think going to South Carolina, that gives her momentum. She is likely, not to set expectations too high, but likely to do very well there.
Katharine, great job on the debate, number one.
Thank you very much.
Really great. Number two, how do you see things now stepping back and now after Jeb Bush suspended his campaign?
Well, I'll say I think for Trump and Clinton, they're winners with some worries moving forward. This is not all said and done. On the Republican side, you know, Jeb dropped out, and that makes a huge difference for Cruz and Rubio moving forward. But there are still things in place here that are hard to mess with. We got that 35% for Trump that is immovable at this point, and if it's not winnowed faster, it's going to be really hard to overtake him.
Yeah, Mike Murphy.
Who do you think is the next person on the Republican side to kind of throw in the towel? A lot of people saying that Ben Carson should or will soon throw in the towel and really make the choices fewer so people can kind of gang up against Donald Trump. Do you hear anything about who's next to throw in the towel?
Well, I think Carson would be the most logical choice to drop out, but he's sort of flown under the radar, as has Kasich to a certain extent, where nobody's attacking them, and therefore they have some rationale to move forward. Kasich, of course, has Ohio in the future. Ben Carson's just hanging out and making friends, so and enemies at this point.
Jagan?
Mayor Katharine, what would you said that Trump kind of holds tight to that 35%.
Right.
Should Mitt Romney endorse Trump so he gets the kind of stain of being part of the establishment? I mean, is that what it's going to take?
Well, that's the question, right? There's this real toss-up here because, yeah, Mitt Romney could be not such a boon to your candidacy. On the other hand, you've got Nevada coming up that has a lot of Mormons there who might respond to a Mitt Romney endorsement for, say, a Rubio. So it could go either way in this thing. The rules are not normal this year.
No, they're really not. Meghan, McCain, how do you see it?
I just want to know who you think is more likely to go out, Cruz or Rubio at this point. Like, who's going to take the other one out? Because at some point, it's got to turn into a two-man race. And I think all of us are a little frustrated that it's still a three-man race.
Yeah, I think Cruz's night in South Carolina was not great. If you look at the crosstabs, he's losing evangelicals to Trump. My thought on that is that he was nice enough to Trump for enough months that he sort of conferred upon him this approval, and evangelicals went, all right, well, if he's not so bad, he's not so bad. That's a real bad sign for Ted Cruz.
Yeah, that's a good point. Mack, let me ask you, we just had on Ben & Jerry's founders, the Ben & Jerry's ice cream company, and they are big supporters of Bernie Sanders. What does Hillary Clinton need to do to tap into some of this excitement that Bernie Sanders seems to be owning, and that is from millennials, from young people who I don't know that they understand really what socialism is, but maybe they do and they like it.
Well, Bernie Sanders has clearly tapped into a lot of feelings in terms of income inequality and middle class and so forth, just as Donald Trump has on the Republican side. I think Secretary Clinton is beginning to do that. I think she gave a good speech after her win in Nevada. I think she included people. She's speaking to those young people, those millennials. I think as you see going forward, particularly, Maria, in the general election, I think you'll see an enthusiasm factor there building in a pretty significant way.
And do you think that in the general election she will pull it back in terms of saying things like we're going to rein in Wall Street, we're going to keep insurance companies to account and keep drug prices capped? Is she going to rein some of that in when she's in a general election, or do you think because maybe Bernie Sanders is pushing her all the way to the left?
Well, primaries are tough on all these candidates, Republican or Democrat, but I think if you listen to her formulation, which she talked about Wall Street after her win, she also talked about businesses doing the right thing, and she was very, I thought, constructive in that regard. She's got a record as Secretary of State and as Senator from New York. I think that will serve her well.
You know, you see in polling numbers that Hillary does very well against Donald Trump in a national election. I would think just the opposite. I would think Donald Trump's one of the last people that Hillary would want to go up against in a national election. Are those numbers to be believed, those polling numbers? Are those accurate in your opinion?
Well, it's early right now. I mean, polling number for the general election it gives some is an indicator, but it's still a long way to go. Trump is a formidable candidate. He's a very, very aggressive candidate, a brawler, if you will. They know each other, so they can talk to each other at least in a familiar way. I think there'll be a sharp contrast, and I think national security will come into play in a major way. After all, that's the most sacred responsibility of any commander-in-chief. I think Secretary Clinton will get good marks there against Donald Trump if they are both the nominees. I believe Secretary Clinton will be.
Well, Mayor Katharine, it would certainly let her use her gender as a shield, to borrow a word from the Wall Street Journal, which she's been dying to do.
Well, and Donald Trump will oblige her if we've seen anything in his record. I mean, this is the problem of this matchup. I will say, because Donald Trump apparently doesn't have to follow any of the normal political rules, Democrats might actually be a little bit more worried about him than you would think at first blush, because he's sort of broken up this whole rubric. We don't have to follow the same rules, and a guy like that is hard to fight, as we've seen in the GOP primary.
Here's Joe Tucker.
Mary Katharine and Mack, I just have one question. You're obviously, this is your world, and my question is this the best we have? I mean, is this it? These 5 people. These are thoroughbreds in the United States of America to be commander-in-chief?
I've said this before. There's 300 million people in this country, and we're like Clinton, Bush, and Donald Trump that's our top 3, or the presumptive front runners at the beginning. So look,
Bernie Sanders.
I think that, especially on the GOP side, one of the disappointments has been that there was this really talented stable of conservative governors who've lost all of them at this point. And we were surprised to see it shake out like this, because Donald Trump coming to the race just was, I hate the term game changer, but it was a game changer.
Well, Kasich's still in. I mean, Kasich is going to be in, by the way. He joined me on Sunday. And
I use the term conservative lightly in his case. Okay.
Go ahead, Matt. Final word here.
Well, I think you raised a very good question. And you know, you have to have the courage to throw your proverbial hat in the ring. I mean, running for president, as Donald Trump and everybody else has said, and I think the American public knows, it's a tough, difficult slog, long slog. So I think you have to step forward and offer yourself. I think the real question that you're raising is, will either of the nominees have the ability to really put forward a vision for the country and unify the country when they're elected? That's the real question. That goes, I think, to the point you're making. Yeah. It's a good one and an important one.
We'll see if anyone does. Mack, Mary Katharine, good to see you both. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you soon.